That's why I have this job. And I hope for those of you who have friends in Cambodia, especially serving in government, you can encourage them to take tough questions. That's really part of governance in a democracy. Mr. Kem Sokha, co-leader of the CNRP, now banned party, who I know quite well, and I admire a great deal. He's a respected human rights lawyer. He has served his country in elected positions in the past and served in leadership roles. And he has been subjected to a very unfortunate process, a 5-year, never-ending trial that began with a year of detention in prison, a year of house arrest, and this trial proceeding that is very arduous. And we're concerned about it because it falls right in the category of what I was mentioning earlier. Mr. Kem Sokha, who I know well, I think could be a very good contributor to Cambodian political life and Cambodian development. Now, we don't take sides. The United States does not take sides. We don't pick political parties. We just simply hope that the playing field can be level and that everyone can participate. Part of the reason that we're particularly concerned about Mr. Kem Sokha's case is because he is accused of having conspired with the United States to overthrow the government of Cambodia. And that's patently false. That's fabricated. I get kind of emotional about it because I know for certain I've been responsible for Cambodian policy for almost 10 years. Roles in Washington. We have no intent to interfere in Cambodia. We're there to help the Cambodian people. So we very much hope that his case can be resolved amicably for him and for his family. But many others, there are hundreds of others who were associated with that party who have been through court proceedings, and we really do hope for a much better outcome. And like I say, my advice to the Cambodian authorities, publicly and privately, is embrace criticism and dissent. It will make you a stronger country, and you'll have your population being part of the process, not obstructed from being part of the process.
Thank you so much. The next question. Yes.
Before you go to the card, one question.
I'm Savannah. I'm the client into a deportation advocacy group, and I think I was just curious to hear how you think that the Cambodian diaspora can help push to uplift the visa sanctions. I know that Vietnam doesn't have any, and Laos doesn't either, and I think that's one of the main pressure points that come when it comes to negotiations with the Cambodian government in terms of whether or not they're accepting deportees.
Yeah, thank you, Savannah. Let me be brief. Actually, point of fact, there are visa sanctions on Laos as well as Cambodia. As I mentioned, there were only 3 or 4 returns over the last 3 years. You know, that's not the level of requirement that Cambodia has to take back its own citizens. I don't like visa sanctions. That's my personal view. I'm always hopeful that we can facilitate travel rather than prohibit travel. This is American law, though, and I can't change the law, but American citizens can change the law. So if you see it differently, you have your elected members of Congress that you can work with to try and change that law. But I have seen countries become more cooperative on this issue and work out something that's a reasonable, mutual understanding. What I can tell you, though, the visa sanctions on Cambodia are quite limited. They're not very broad. They don't apply to the general population. They're very narrow on a specific ministry and a specific category of visa. Any Cambodian can elect to come here for academic study, for official reasons, and a few other categories. So in other words, Savannah, it's not as widespread as you might think. But I appreciate your question, and it's something I hope we can resolve. Okay?
So I'm going to combine the next 2 questions. Can you share with us what plan to help Cambodia have democracy? Did you have a plan for that? And how can we Cambodian-Americans contribute to the development of Cambodia?
Yeah, I'm fond of saying that the form of government that is best for Cambodia is a decision for the Cambodian people themselves. The United States is not there to create a form, to be a model. I certainly don't recommend our form of democracy. It doesn't work for others. It's a challenge for us. But we do think that democracy, as per the Constitution of Cambodia, is the form of structure of government that the country can most benefit from. So we encourage, we work with civil society, we work with many organizations in Cambodia to ensure they have a voice and can partake in the process. Civil society is very active, not just on human rights and democracy, but on the environment, on labor issues, on gender equality, on respect for minority communities. All of that is part of democracy. And at the end of the day, the best the United States can do as a friend to Cambodia is recommend and counsel. We have 250 years of experience. And again, it's not perfection, but we've learned a lot along the way. And that's what we do, is to share our best practices and lessons learned. Now, I think on the bigger question, we can spend a lot of time, but I'll be very brief on helping with development. I mentioned our foreign assistance programs, but that's not it alone. The private sector plays a big role. Average American citizens, like this room is full of, play a big role in helping Cambodia progress. It has come so far in the last 30 years. Even when I first went to Cambodia 20 years ago, it's hard to recognize it now. There's a lot of activity, a lot of construction. People are living better. More people have homes and cars and motorcycles. There still is a great deal of poverty, however, and income disparity. We are working to try and even things out and ensure that all Cambodians are benefiting from development. But what I want to say is using taxpayer money judiciously. We're very proud of our foreign assistance programs, but we're equally proud of American philanthropy. I know I've talked with some of you who contribute your own time to efforts in Cambodia, in public health, in road safety, I was hearing about tonight. I know in child protection, so many areas. We're really incredibly proud of that because governments can't do it alone. So we thank and we encourage those of you who pursue efforts to collaborate with partners in Cambodia.
So I have one more question. Yeah, so I'm just checking with Mr. Ramon because I know that dinner is on the way. So I guess the next question is really speaking to the freedom with the naval bases in Ream. Can you speak a little bit about that? Yeah, please.
Sure. And I want to tell you something interesting about these questions and being able to talk to you, a largely Cambodian-American community. I don't get these kind of questions in Cambodia. And I'll tell you why. It's kind of risky business to be asking about elections and democracy and Chinese naval bases. It's sensitive, and that's unfortunate. People should be able to talk about that. So Ream Naval Base is a Cambodian Navy base close to Sihanouk Bill on the coast. It's not a big facility, but there have been reports that Cambodia is in a partnership with the Chinese military. There have been allegations in those reports that the intent of that relationship is a permanent Chinese military presence on the base. I have to be frank and honest with you. That would be very troubling for the United States. We have a relationship with China. We have areas where we cooperate. We have areas where we compete. And a Chinese military presence on the coast of the Gulf of Thailand would not be good for U.S. national security interests, nor would it be good with for our partners and our allies, including our treaty allies. Thailand and the Philippines are treaty allies of the United States. And a military base there is not very far from the South China Sea. It's not very far from the Malacca Strait. The vast majority of world commerce travels through those areas. And a Chinese presence, a military presence in Cambodia would trouble the ability of free commerce and navigation. So it is kind of a hot button issue these days. I do want to emphasize we're in a Chinese restaurant. That Cambodia needs a good relationship with China. We need a good relationship with China. China is a big trading partner of the United States. We need to work together on environmental issues, climate change, on international crime. But we have our differences with this country and its pursuits around the world and some of its aggression, etc. So we want to see Cambodia have a good relationship with China, and not this kind of allegation of a permanent presence. So that is an issue that I have the pleasure of working on. Not everything is fun. I do enjoy getting around Cambodia to all of the provinces and working with the Cambodian people. So most of the time I get to work on fun, enriching, rewarding topics. Occasionally some of these challenging ones.